This has really been launched in response to some of our staff not being able to attend our evening talks. So it's great to see so many of you here today, and we're planning to do this every couple of months going forward. So please do check out the Grow notifications when they come out and look on to the next one. Today's talk on developing our growth mindset is being delivered by Simon Tyler, who I think some of you will already know. Developing a growth mindset in an ever-changing environment is essential to stay ahead of the curve. Simon will explore how having a growth mindset is pivotal to your personal and professional happiness and progress. A pioneer in simplicity, impact and attitude, Simon has spoken at hundreds of events for all kinds of organisations, bringing his unique brand of connectivity and humour to his audience to shift attitudes and create an impact. His expertise in seeing the simplest and most elegant solution to a problem has been invaluable across many global organisations. So Simon is also the author of 5 books, including the Attitude book, for which he was a finalist in the 2019 Business Book Awards. So without any further ado, please give a warm welcome to Simon Tyler.
But I didn't win the Business Book Awards. That's really interesting, because I remember sitting, and Simon was there as well, my colleague. We were at the awards dinner, and I was convinced I'm going to win this. I'm convinced. And they talked about the category, and the category basically was describing my book, the Attitude book. I thought, we're going to win this. So he was trying to calm me down, saying, no, it's fine, we're just enjoying ourselves, we're in the final, it's fine. And then when they announced the winner, I can't tell you how much hatred I felt. It's really interesting that turns out. Anyway, growth mindset. Thank you very much for attending. This is the first lunchtime event, and I hope that there's going to be at least one of you in this room will have some kind of significant shift in your growth mindset, that the rest of you will see them in the weeks ahead and go, oh, they've done something. Because broadly speaking, when I run events such as this, there's sort of 3 things that happen, and you'll have one of these 3 possibly. So I'd like you just to look at the person to your left and the person to your right, wherever you are. One of you will be that person who thinks, that was awesome, I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to make a change. And they do, and it's obvious to the rest of us. Another one of you will think, yeah, that was really good, and do nothing. And you'll get caught back in your emails and everything else that you return to when you get back to your desk. And the third one of the responses that possibly you'll have will be, meh, it's all right. So just have a look at the 2 people you just looked at and decide which one you are. Maybe it's up to you. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little story that's just last night happened to me, which is I've got some older children and I've got a 13-year-old son. And my 13-year-old son, somewhat typically, at 8:30, 8:45 on Sunday night said, oh, I've got maths homework. Great, okay. When he says he's got maths homework, it means we've got maths homework, which means we use the system. I don't know whether you've got children, they use the online My Maths system in Wiltshire, where you have to go online and answer everything in the response. So we go through it, and I know it's a big intake of breath for me to try and get my head back into school maths, which it's been a long time for me, so I can't really remember how it all worked. Anyway, we're ploughing through it, and there are 9 elements you've got to do. So it's like, they've just become available as maths, have they? Oh yeah, it's only last week they all came in. No, they didn't. Anyway, so we're ploughing through it, and he's a good lad, but he doesn't really listen very much in the classes, therefore doesn't have really much of an idea of what it's about. And it was about mean, median, and mode. Anybody understand that? Okay, so about 7 of you understand that, so I might call on you in weeks ahead. But it's like, okay, well I need to concentrate on this with him and be with him, but he's got to do the work. I can't do it for him. Well, I could, because that would have cleared the system through. So we're working it through, and he also, the way he is, he would refuse to go through. There's an option on there, on the system, that says the lesson, so you can click learn, and it walks you through it and you practice. Or there's the actual homework itself, the test piece. He has never got time. And if any of you have got young children, they've got no time to work this through. Let's just do the test. Let's see how we get on. So the whole point was, okay, well, let's just get in. So we're clicking through, piece by piece by piece, working it through. And I'm getting more and more, maybe not angry, but probably angry. If you ask them, I was getting angry because I couldn't get it. I was thinking, I don't really know what the difference is between a median and a mode. I don't know. And he tries to articulate it, and I couldn't get what trying to explain. And he's getting slightly anxious, and I'm getting slightly anxious, and there's this whole bubble of anxiety between the two of us. Any of you have this too? Some of you. And I thought, well, okay, I'm now changing. I'm becoming probably obnoxious dad, and he's on the other side, to me, becoming stroppy, pointless, bloody son. And this is not a good situation. I thought, we're getting stuck here, but we are ploughing through. We're ploughing through, and we're getting it done. And there was a couple of them we thought, well, who knows? Should we just guess? And I thought, well, it's important that we just get momentum, because what happened, what I noticed in him, and I noticed in some of the adults I work with too, they get stuck. And this is where, by the way, I am talking about growth mindset, but some people guess that already. The growth mindset gets a bit stuck and fixed, and I sensed that he was starting to get fixed. And when we have a fixed mindset, we tend not to want to be wrong. Any of you suffer from that? Not really wanting to be wrong. I'll come back to that in a minute. So we're slowly working it through, and the stuff that we guessed, we got right. And we looked at each other, and all of a sudden that little cloud of anxiety just went, started to go away. This is quite good. We're getting a few things right here. Went through the next one, which we sort of guessed. We got it wrong. And probably, if we'd got that first one wrong, what would have happened to you? The cloud of anxiety and getting something wrong, what might have happened? We got more anxious and more probably annoyed with each other. So it's quite lucky that we'd moved it through. So the next time we got something wrong, we were okay with it. And we were able to look at, well, where did we get it wrong? What do we, no, we could see it. And we start to learn through the process because we sort of began to relax in the process of learning. Does that make sense? So it was really useful. And these things happen to us all the time. And I thought, how lucky, I'm coming here to talk to you about growth mindset. And as if by magic, the universal HR department in the sky gave me a little bit of substance. Thank you very much. So let's talk about growth mindset for you, and we'll see if that pans out too. Hopefully. Yes, there we go. Yes, that's what we're talking about, that's me. Carol Dweck. Anybody heard of Carol Dweck? She's one of my favourite lecturers at the moment. There's lots of YouTube stuff of her. She's a senior American lecturer. I think she's at Stanford, not Harvard. And she talks about mindset, all sorts of aspects, in terms of relationships, in terms of work, in terms of sport, and how things are very different. And I love this particular very simple quote that she talks about, which is the view that you adopt about yourself profoundly affects everything in your life and the way you lead your life. And that got me to think, as it always does with all of Carol's work, which is, okay, well, how does this play out? How does our mindset change everything? And remember I talked about fixed mindsets, and maybe the bit that's starting to happen to me here. I want you to imagine two sides of where I'm standing here, which will be outside of range of Wally's camera. Sorry about that. We'll have the fixed mindset, which unfortunately is you lot. You're going to represent the fixed mindset over here. You, great news, you're the growth mindset over this side. What's it like when you have a fixed mindset? What are you like when you're fixed? Remember when I was starting to get a bit gritty in the maths? What are you like? Stubborn? Absolutely stubbornness. You want things to be a certain way. And if it's not going to plan, don't like it. I know this, I'm sure it isn't any of you. One or two of you are smiling, but maybe the others, it probably is a little bit, but we'll see. So here, when we have a fixed mindset, we don't really want things to be outside of our knowledge set. I want to keep doing what I know what the outcome's going to be. So people with this, fixed mindset, and you dressed all so nicely too, they tend to stay in subject matters and on work that they know about. Because I don't want to get to that point, almost where I was starting to get to on the maths homework, where I could fail here. These people fail less. That's sort of good news, isn't it? But they don't necessarily change much. You just get stuff done, don't you? So you're nodding, like you're agreeing with me now that you are fixed mindset people. Whereas over here, you growth mindset people, when you're in a growth mindset, what's the difference here? Say again? You take risks. You're more likely to take risks. You're more likely to allow things to unravel. And you're not so wedded to an outcome. And I'll unpick a little bit more about that now. But let's just get it started. Have you all got a piece of paper and a pen? No. One person very close to you will have a spare booklet and they'll tear out a piece of paper for you, won't you? So let's give all of you a piece of paper and a pen. I'm sure there's enough resources. It's a very resourceful organisation. You've got everything you need here. Look at that. Look at the resourceful ones here. So really, you shouldn't be in the fixed mindset set, should you? You are ready. Look, and also resourceful ones, they found pens. Procuring pens. Well done, you. Okay. So while you're still sorting out your resources, I would like you to think about your entire life. So for people of the era of me, that could take a long time to think about that, and in fact I don't remember much of it anyway. But can you just think about what might have been the 3 biggest growth points in your life, where you've either learnt the most, or changed course, or had some kind of a dramatic personal upgrade? For some of you slightly younger people here think, that's great, you just last year, whatever it was, all happened last year, whatever it might be, okay? So take a few moments and just think back through your life. Might have been when you were at school, might have been when you were in the even earlier years, preschool, it might have been first job, it might have been university, it might have been very recently. The 3 points in your life when you think, that was like a big growth point. So this was a timeline stuff here now. Often when I do this exercise, I'd invite people to do 5 or even 10 points on their line, which right now you might be thinking, well, there is that, and there's that, and there's that. That's fine. Just list them out and pick the 3. Got it? There's all sorts of NLP cues going on here now, with some of you looking up left, some of you looking down right. And you know what they all mean, don't you? If you don't look it up, it's very good. That means one thing, that means something completely different. What dear me. Okay, so you've started to get it. And for some of you, maybe you thought, well, I don't know when they are. Maybe I'll just be on a continuous path of growth. Great. And actually, as a slight side conversation, the fact that you're in this room probably suggests to me that you're already oriented towards a growth mindset. The people who probably need to hear what I'm going to be talking and continue to talk about aren't in this room. So maybe it's your job when we get out of here to try and influence them in a good way. I'll give you maybe some things you can do with that, including shouting at them. I'm sure it's a good thing to do. So whatever's starting to come up on your list, and this is a good list maybe for you reflectors to take away and do after this event, because the thing with us reflectors, the reflectors aren't ready to write anything down yet, are you? You need to sleep on it first before you get on with it, but that's okay. The sort of things you've started to write, anybody got anything on their list, you don't need to tell or share with anybody what they are, because they're purely personal to your journey, that maybe were really tough, potentially dark? So there's a few of you, okay? Come back to those. And anybody who's the particularly glorious moment of success or achievement or change, anybody got those? So a few more, broadly similar. The truth is they're all there for us to grow from. And even the darker stuff, often when things have gone dramatically wrong for us, it's an opportunity to choose between you fixed bunch over here and you growth people over here. When things go wrong, what's the fixed mindset? And of course, there's none of you in this room because you're in this room. So think about a colleague over there who's not come with you. It's them this is for, isn't it, really? So how would they have reacted if they got the fixed mindset when stuff's gone wrong? When maybe, those of you who had that dark moment as your learning point, how would they have reacted to that? Say again? Nothing to do with me. So they push it outside. Push it outside, absolutely. Definitely come back to that, thank you. Nothing to do with me. They might have gone on, they might have continued down the slope of, oh, woe is me. Well, this always happens to me. Oh, it's tough. And actually, as you start to fall to this point, I'm outside of your range of camera now, so I'm doing whatever I like. That this is where it slips and we learn even less as we're sliding down the slope. They won't take risks because they don't want what's gone on. I want to take the point that you made, which is very good, which is it's nothing to do with me. One of the biggest influences of mindset is one of these three letters, BCJ reminds me, which is blame, complain, and justify. And I hear that in conversations, which if you think about those three things, as soon as you get caught in blaming someone else or something else, it's outside of me. If I complain, oh, it's awful here, it's always dreadful there, this is dreadful, that dreadful. Complaining is outside of me. Does that make sense? And the third one is justifying it. So back over here in Fick, they would justify it. Well, that's what happens to people like me in situations like this. So those three, BCJ, or JCB, but I don't want to use the digger metaphor, but it works the same. So these people get stuck in that. And as a clue in your world, as soon as you hear yourself going into blame, complain, and justify, know that you're drifting into the fixed state, which is stopping you growing, stopping you learning, and taking your mindset out of potentially the best of you. Over here in growth mindset, the fact that you said, yeah, that was my moment, has probably meant you took a growth mindset. What's the difference over here for somebody with a growth mindset when we face that dark or that challenging situation? You look for positives, as tough as it might be. And I can assure you, when crap happens, it's tough in that moment to say, this is positive. It's very difficult. But it's about, okay, well, I'm going to allow myself, I'm going to give myself a moment of wallow, not wallow, and I'm just going to a moment of wallow, and just allow it to happen before I'm going to think, okay, how can I use this? How can I step up? How can I learn from this? And as I say, it's very difficult to do it instantly, but know that that's available to us at some point to bring through. How else would the growth mindset people react to when things have gone tough? I'll take that. There's two there. Say again. Keep going. Keep going. Here, stop, change direction, avoid. Over there, keep going. Absolutely. Thank you. Somebody said something over here as well. See it as an opportunity. It's all an opportunity when things really go wrong. I had an agreement with myself I wouldn't talk about what I'm just about to talk about. I gave a speech 12 months ago, almost this day. It didn't go very well. I shouldn't say that really, because it potentially means I could do this one if it go badly. But I'm over it, all right? And it didn't really go well. And whilst it was not going well, it was an evening thing. I don't really do dinner dance type stuff, and I'd taken one on, and no one was listening. They were all drunk. And here's me, yes, using a little bit of humour, but I'm being all very serious and growth and personal mindset or whatever else I was talking about. They didn't care what I was talking about. It just wasn't working out. And what was the point we said about that? I was starting to dive. What do I do here? Corpsing, they call that in the speaking world. So I was starting to corpse. I thought, well, what do I do? What do I do? So I just used my full chest and height, stop even taller. And I was trying to plough on, take your advice, keep going over here. Just wasn't working. And it was just really tough. And I just stopped. I said, well, let's just stop now, shall we? And I remember drifting home. And even worse, I think there was a tube strike or something as well, so I had to drive all the way into London, and I dragged my way back to Richmond Station, got on the back of my car, and this was now 2 a.m. in the morning, driving back, cursing myself, saying, how bad I am, why do I ever do this? I'm never going to do this again, I'm hopeless at this, it's not my game, I'm not going to do this anymore, so why do I even speak? I could just get a really simple job and people would like me. And all this is going on. All this is going on in my head. And it wasn't until I got home, and fortunately, in some respects, I had the 3-hour drive to get home. Got home, woke up the following day, and as luck would have it, I was painting my wooden office the following day. That's what I actually set out to do, as opposed to delivering another speech, because that would have been really bad. And I spent the day therapeutically painting my new wooden office. And allowed me to work this through. My point here, which is I was able to work it through, which is I can learn from this. I've got to be able to learn from this. And of course I did. Does this make sense? There's one little tip I would give you when this happens to you, which I call the 3 silences. And when we have had an incident that has affected our mindset, what we're not likely to do is experience a little bit of silence. Because we have all sorts of chatter going on in our head that says, you're rubbish, told you you're rubbish, it's a dreadful suit anyway, or whatever else is going on in your head. So the 3 silences, which I invite you to challenge to try now, I'm just going to ask you to be silent for 20 seconds. Who's counting to 20? Okay, it's good. It's banter. So the first silence is that one, which is just to experience quiet. And most people, if this is how we're going to access that state, not that one. The first silence of 20 seconds, we would either count it out, as you and I were doing, I was definitely doing it too, or some of you in this room may have been thinking, meh, the early meh was coming in. Why am I doing this? 1 or 2 of you may have started to explore the silence and thought, it's quite nice. I'll start to enjoy the silence a little bit. Maybe even fewer percentage of you would even have thought, I'm reflecting on what was just said. That was actually quite useful. Yeah, okay. So you might have gone to that point. It's unlikely, though, that any of you would have had any use of the silence that you could have used for your mindset. So that's where the second silence comes in. So I'm now going to invite you for the second silence is just to enjoy the silence. Leave the counting to me. Just see where your head goes for the next 20 seconds. Okay, anybody still counting? Good. Okay, the chance there was probably a big chunk of you was still in the, yeah, but why have we gone silence? Surely it's a good way of him filling time, isn't it? Now what you're saying? It's actually quite good. We're going to do 45 minutes of silence. How good was that talk? That's not a bad idea. Simon, can you make a note of that? That's a really good one. But in that silence, you still probably would have had some questions. What starts to come up in the second silence is questions, explorations, and we tend to overpopulate our thinking in that second silence. So we might say, oh, yeah, well, I've got to do that. Oh, actually, my leg does hurt. Oh, no, I did that. I should have done that on the weekend. It was lived in that box. And we've gone off on a tangent. And the thought tangent takes us somewhere else. Anybody have a run of thoughts? No? You're all blissful Zen Buddhists. It's very good. Okay, so you have a busy thought. And the third silence, this is where, and it takes the 3 steps, and it's only 20 seconds. So total, you can do the maths on that. It's a minute. And I would chunk it into 3 silences to allow yourself to know that you have busy clutter going on, probably counting. The second silence is where you go, okay, I can use this. I'm now calming stuff down. The third silence is when we now can go into that point that you and I were talking about, which is, what am I going to do? What's next? How can I use this? And it takes those 3 steps to get to that slightly more peaceful mind state where we can calm stuff down. I don't know about you, but my head tends to be spinning all the time. I'm thinking about stuff, I think, all the time. And not very far away from here, I didn't realise, but is the International Buddhist Meditation Retreat Centre. Do you know that? Over in... Say again? No, it's Headington. Thank you very much. And I thought, I'm going to go on that. I'm going to go on that. And I booked myself on a 10-day Buddhist meditation retreat. This is about 8 years ago. Good stuff. Anyway, so I'll do this. This is really cool. And the invitation there, it's only an invitation, is to go silent. We all arrived at about 3 or 4 o'clock on the Friday. The bell goes at 5:30, which is the invitation to go silent for 10 days. I thought, I can do this, I can do this, because this is my game, this is what I'm up to. I do the 3 silences for people, I can do this. And they teach you a breathing technique, and the bell goes in the morning at 4:30 a.m, where you're invited to come through and have a little bit of, you sit in a room silently together, and then you have breakfast and wander around, and then sort of 10 o'clock you sit down and have a bit more silence together. No pens, no paper, no reading material at all, just you. I don't know how you'd handle it, but my head went crazy, absolutely crazy. I was counting everything. I was counting the trees, the cups, the chairs, the people, the number of jackets and ties. I was counting everything. I'd gone into this just crazy counting because I was feeling the first silence almost. I was into counting, trying to be busy, trying to be productive with my thinking. Then I went into my second silence, and we're not talking 20 seconds here, we're talking about a long time. So we're into Saturday, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? And I've got to start to have a bit of a fixed mindset. I need to work this through. And by Sunday, I got to a point, so it's 2 days in, I thought, this is crazy. And you get about a minute to talk to the guru every day. And most people, because they're really wise, they go, they have nothing. Nothing. Whereas me, I've got stories to say. I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you what's going on in my head. So I did. I'm looking really quickly. And he was a fantastic guy. And he said, Simon, this is your first time at Simon Trust. I said, yeah, it is. He says, most people come for 2 days, for the first 4 or 5 times, and then come on the 10 days. Going, I think I understand why now. And it was a great process. So in essence, he set me free, he let me go. Because even though it's just an invitation, you can walk in, my car's there, I get in drive. I lived 7 miles from where it was. It was great. I could almost see my house across the hills from Headington. But it was a really interesting experience, and he allowed me to go. But the whole point is, I abundantly saw those 3 silences. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's talk about growth mindset, shall we? Yes. So, for me, the 4 things you need if you're going to have a growth mindset are these 4. And for all 4 of them, if you're going to do anything with this, So look at the person who you think is going to be the one that's going to do something with this, and just watch them, because they'll do something with it. Whereas the other two of you can just go, yeah, well. They are belief, tenacity, curiosity, and gratefulness. And I've noticed these four play out absolutely in my life. And at various points, they will be weaker for you, or stronger in some areas. So the first one is belief. Just the beliefs you have about you. I have written a number of different ways in the books that obviously if you wish to purchase afterwards. In one of them I wrote The Big I Am, which is the story about how we define ourselves. It's a little bit like what we talked about already. I would like you on your piece of paper, because I know you're all furnished with paper now, to very quickly, non-judgmentally, without thinking, write down 3 I ams. Fill it in now. I am. Don't judge it. Stop thinking. So I know the reflectors will think, no, give me time. The activists are already there. Look, the pen flying already. The activists. I'm in. I am. Write down 3 or more I am. Answer that question. Anybody not like what they've written? Interesting. Any of you a bit meh about what you've written? Anybody feel really pleased about what you've written? So that means broadly everybody's in the middle, so we've got 2 at each end. Okay, so the point with the big I am is quite often we don't realise it with our thinking that we're carrying some I ams about our belief system. So if you've got stuff in there that you didn't like, they need to go. I would encourage you for the week ahead to start collecting some more positive I ams. And with the I am, be careful of using describers. I am, insert job role here. That's just for now. I am positive. I am encouraging. I am decisive. I am whatever it is. Start collecting words. Notice them. Notice them in the books you read, the papers you read, in the people that you meet. Start collecting them. And then whittle out the ones that you want to be yours. And then you start to orient your life, every part of your life, around those 2 or 3. That makes a difference. Or your money back. Paid in back. Okay. Second one, tenacity. Michael Jordan. Everybody knows about Michael Jordan, the basketball player. He quite often has been quoted. He had a really tough start in life in terms of his background. He pushed and pushed and pushed on basketball. He got turned down by several NBA franchises. He never made it. And it was his mother that said, just keep going. She encouraged him to keep going, which is our point. She said, we're gurus over here. We said, keep going with. And he kept going. And he would 6:30 every morning, 6 in the morning every morning, just shoot hoops all the time. And he quotes statistically, very accurately, how many shots he missed, how many game-changing moments, end-of-game-changing moments, 26 of them, I remember, where they thought, Michael Jordan, he's going to win the game for us now. Look, he's got the ball, he's going to shoot, and he missed. 26 times. And he's even statistically got the number of shots that he's missed. So he knows all this. And you think, whoa, hold a minute, that sounds like here, self-damning situation. But the way he packaged all of that is he packaged it around his acceptance of failure and his tenacity to keep going. He knows he can keep going. Does this make sense? So back here in the growth mindset, he never cared, to a certain extent, that's not too rich a sentence perhaps, about the shots that he missed, because he just kept going. And tenacity is about that. So when stuff shows up in your world that trips you up or you're not very good at, just remember the 2 ends of this stage. You've got a choice. Over here, fixed mindset would be stop, do something else. Don't go there again. Back to my son and his maths homework. If he and I had tripped up early, there was a chance we'd have drifted here and we wouldn't have done the 9 elements or whatever it is we had to do. But we kept going. We use the failure in a good way to keep going. The difference between these two people, and I see them in the work that I do, people who get fixed don't want to play. They tend to underachieve. That doesn't look like it. Looks like they're doing okay. These people could get mocked by them because they make failure, and failure happens. And they go, you're bad. But these people statistically tend to overachieve. So in sports, there's so much evidence of the two mindsets. Next one, curiosity. This is the single thing. I'd say this is my top suit. And one of these four will be yours. For me, it's curiosity. I'm really curious about everything. Every single one of you. So right now, for the last 20 minutes or so, I've been looking at probably every single one of you, and the way you're interacting with me and with a subject. And I wrote something last year, one of my simple notes. Anybody get my simple notes? Few. They're quite good. You can subscribe on a piece of paper. If you don't like them, you can unsubscribe a week later. I'll see that you've unsubscribed, but I'll get over it, because it's part of this. It's okay. But the one I wrote about last year, or the year before maybe, was called Poker Face. And you've all got varying degrees of poker faces. You're telling me stuff all the time, every single one of you. Do you know what your face is saying? The face says it all. There's an incredible woman, she now passed away, who wrote a book called You Can Heal Your Life. Louise Hay. Anybody heard of Louise Hay? Amazing stuff. And I urge you at some point in your life to pick up one of her books and just work it through. But one of the techniques she would always use is mirror work. She would advise you to look at yourself in the mirror. You ladies are better at that than us men, because you tend to be equipped with the aforementioned mirror. We're not. We don't do that. But it's useful to have a look at what your face is saying. Some of you have got, can I just a little bit of swearing? Can I do that? Thank you. As if I need his permission. Resting bitch face. You know that? Some of you in this room have got resting bitch faces. It's okay. But know that might be how you come across. And I would say anything you can do just to find ways of just softening your facial expression will serve you well in all of your walks of life. Relationships, work, sport, whatever. And quite often, we here in fixed mindset, there's going to be a slight gripping of teeth. I know when I've gone through the toughest times in my life, I've woken up in the morning with really sore jaws. And that's a known thing. Dentists work on this, which there's an expression for whatever it is, gripping jaw, I suppose, something like that. Probably not what gripping jaw is, but it might be. And there's something about over here, if we want growth mindset, which is our ability just to relax our face. It makes a difference. So that's just one of the things I'm curious about. But I would say, if you're going to grow your growth mindset, it's about, I need to harvest my curiosity. How can I be more curious? So when I meet somebody and it goes well, that's interesting. When I meet somebody and it doesn't go well, that's interesting. When I do a particular piece of work in Wiltshire Council and everybody loves it, that's interesting. When I do a piece of work at Wiltshire Council and people tell me it's crap, that's interesting. That's all. Some of us take things quite personally, don't we? There's another wonderful book, I look at a walking reference library. Probably one of the pieces on my timeline of things that changed me the most was a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Anybody heard of that one? Really good. There's only four. I like four. And one of his four agreements comes from ancient Toltec wisdom. And one of the agreements is, these are growth mindset agreements, is don't take things personally. That was a tough one for me. Because I would naturally, the way I'm wired, I'm extrovert and I like to connect with people, I like to know how well I'm doing. So those of you who smiled and nodded at me every now and then, thanks. And those of you who haven't smiled and have shaken your head, thanks as well. It's because I'm not taking it personally, it's okay. And there's those 4 agreements, really simple. I love simple things. And that's a great book. Just brings together this particular point about curiosity. And the final one here is about being grateful. And that's where I think that's where inspiration sits, is our ability to be grateful. It's been written about all over the place, including by me this morning, if you received one of my emails. But the ability to be grateful is taken for granted. It's an instant neutralizer to those tough situations. And to be grateful is our ability to notice something, have no judgment on it, but just, that's interesting, to be grateful for it. Somebody challenged me a few years back, a long time back, to 1,000 thank yous. And I mentioned that in the attitude book. But 1,000 thank yous, they said, I challenge you to 1,000 thank yous in a month. Really? For the mathematicians in the room, you'll know that's 33 a day-ish. 33 thank yous a day. Obvious, proportional, not ridiculous, just a thank you. And I bought one of those little people counter clicker things, you know, the little wheel thing, click, click, click. And I thought, I'm going to do that and see how many I get through. And when I did that experiment, I managed to, I think I was in the 800s. It was somewhere in the 800s. And by the time I was exhausted and I stopped. And I started to be miserable about things again. No. But the act of saying thank you is really interesting because it reconfigures what we look for and what we notice. So it's when somebody holds a door open for you. It's when somebody just moves a piece of paper. When they let you in a queue of traffic. Whatever it might be. Just every single opportunity to say thank you. And I challenge you right now, as best you can cluster with these lovely, comfortable, big arm-rested chairs, so turn to the extent that your body allows you to turn, hopefully towards the person next to you, unless you're on your own, in which case you've got to turn fully round, and deliver, in turn, 3 thank yous. Hopefully you're in 3s, so get into a 3-ish, or a 4 if it's a 4, and just deliver now 3 things you're grateful for. They could be thank yous, but just I'm grateful for this room. I'm grateful for the acoustics, and so on. Go.
It's 48 past. 48 past.
Okay, I'm sure there's more to go, but what do you notice about the noise in the room? It's higher. You didn't see, I can see your faces fortunately, but the number of smiles was significantly higher. People, you naturally smile when you go into grateful mode. It's an instant attitude shifter, instantly. But it takes work. There is some so a yoga one that somebody told me, which is to go to 10. 10 things you're grateful for right now. So just to go through 10. 1, there's 2, there's 3, and so on. Get to 10. And the act then completely shifts your body system in that moment. And it causes, as I just saw then, more smiles. It changes who you are. And what it does is it shifts you along this spectrum towards growth mindset, which is good, isn't it? Anybody fancy taking on the 1,000 thank yous in a month challenge? Yeah? It's really good, because what happens towards the end of the month is you start to doing it without thinking. And that's the point. Then you start to notice, because the first few days, I can assure you, you'll feel exhausted. You think, 33? Look at 33 things I'm grateful for in one day. Yesterday, nothing, 0, miserable. Liverpool nearly lost to bloody Man United. But they scored. Sorry, I'm a Liverpool supporter. Not that. Well, I can, it's a choice, isn't it? So, if you do, good luck. Share it with someone, because being with somebody on the journey of 1,000 thank yous is helpful. And then you can also be grateful to them every day. It's a bit of a bonus all the time. So just get some for free. So that's the point. So I'm going to give you one more secret before we're done, and then maybe open up for a couple of questions, and then we're nearly on the hour. So anything you can do to harvest these 4 will shift you along the spectrum, as I said. I'll give you one very long quote, almost to wrap up, which is developing this growth mindset that we're talking about is based on your willingness and your commitment. Willingness is, I'm going to. Commitment is, you get on with it and do it. To change your most powerful beliefs. So some of those beliefs, when we quickly did the I am exercise, there could be 1 or 2 in there that are slowing you down and stopping you. Liberating yourselves from that would liberate it even more. So potentially, this afternoon, you don't have to go to sleep on this, but you could, in fact, have a doze straight afterwards, then wake up to becoming the newer and better version of yourself. And the rest of it you create. It's now time, it's up to you. You can do nothing with this. You could be the meh person, or you could be the, it's quite good, I like it person. Or you could be that other one who does something with it. But the last secret I'll give you, and this is for children, but actually we're all children still, and it's the word yet. And Carol Dweck talks about this all the time, and absolutely, if there's one word, gives me prickles in the back of my neck, even saying it right now, is the introduction of the word yet as part of the journey to that. So when you fail, I'm not there yet, as opposed to I'm fixed and done. And the whole journey, and I would love it in teaching, is to incorporate the word yet as a way of saying where people are. Move up, use the word yet. It's another magic liberator. Final task, because I love you to do some of the work. Turn to the person next to you who you now know really well because you've been chatting to them about things for a while, and say, if there was one thing that came out of this session, it would be that. Go. Tell them, don't tell me, tell them the one thing that's come out of this session. Okay, so with the time there, hopefully you've all got one thing out of it. Some of you are going to fly. And if you feel like you're the person who's like, well, that's quite interesting, you need to speak to the positive person in the room next to you. Because they're the one right now, I've got these little blocks of energy that you can borrow some from. Go and spend time with them. If you had a bit of a meh in there, it's okay. The rest of the afternoon is all yours to do with what you will. Wally just asked me a couple of questions. One, could you make sure you sign in on the sign-in sheet if you haven't done that already, so we know who was here? Secondly, can you do something that you want to know about the digital mind? How can we incorporate this in the...
Basically, a lot of people will be anxious about digital transformation and not having the right skills to keep up with the challenges that come with it. So, so some people in your organisation are concerned in some form about how they're going to keep up with digital transformation. What does it mean for them? They might even think they're a bit of a laggard, they're stuck over here. I don't understand it, it's going to affect me, it's going to change who I am. They might need help. The fact that you're in this room means you're probably the ambassadors for a growth mindset here. You've got people to help.
They didn't turn up today. That's a clue. Any others?
The other question was about, in general, how do we embed a growth mindset within the culture of the organisation?
How do we embed this growth mindset in the culture of the organisation? There's two journeys, I think. One is, it starts with you. It has to start with you. If there's just 5 of you in this room, but hopefully there's all 45 of you in this room, or however many there are in this room, if you do something that's slightly that way oriented, just small, it will affect your colleagues. You will create a ripple effect in this organisation that's unstoppable, because that force can't be stopped. That one drifts on its own, and it's a bit slow moving. If you lot do anything, you're going to shift it upwards, so it starts with you. The other one, I would say, is from the top down. Everybody hopes it's going to come from top down, is talk about it. Talk about the language of growth mindset. I learned there. Talk about your journey of success. Talk about your breakthroughs, because that helps other people step up a bit more. Capiche? Enough capiche. It's nearly 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or whatever day it is. Any questions? We've got time for a couple of questions if you want questions. Who the hell am I? Forget it. Come on. The 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. R-U-I-Z. Short book, won't take long, but you'll read it 5 or 6 times. It'll just mean something every single time. One question here. One more question. What's made me so interested? Don't know, follow my nose, I think. That's a good question. I've had that question asked me before. I think I am on those list before. I'm naturally curious, I always have been. And at times when I've had some really tough points in my life, I realised then I had a choice. And sometimes, for those of you who did have a dark moment, it's like experiencing the darkness properly. I can remember walking down Oxford High Street, shaking my head, and I caught sight of myself in one of the panes of glass of one of the big shop windows. And I looked there and I was still shaking my head. People probably thought I had Parkinson's, I have no idea, but it's just, I was walking around and I thought, I have to stop. And the curiosity kicks in again. So it's my job, and I like it. Thank you. Thank you.